Hello and welcome back. No need to ask what you want. Chapter 2, right? Shall I? Yeah, I'll be it. Chapter 2 it is. Without waiting for him, I headed down the hall and out the door for the archery range. The sun had not yet fully risen, so most of the inhabitants of our little settlement were still asleep. I knew the entire place was made up of small wooden huts sheltered in a valley under the leaning edge of a cliff face. It was settled between the cliff and the river, and the waterfall prevented entry from the rear. Fresh scents of breakfast tickled my nose, and my stomach grumbled in anticipation. I would go to breakfast after besting Lyle. Again. He caught up with my steady pace as I entered the archery field. I could tell he was trying to sneak up on me. His attempt never failed to amuse me. I let him get within an inch of touching my shoulder before I twirled. I grabbed his outstretched arm and lurched backwards, sending him sprawling. He shifted into his cat form in midair and landed on all 4 feet. He transformed back into his human form as he ran at me. I waited until the last minute before I dodged and threw him again. This time he landed on his back in a cloud of dust. "Well done, Kayla," said a pleased voice of my fighting instructor. Isabel had treated me as though I were her own daughter ever since I'd first arrived at this settlement. "You shouldn't be able to do that," grumbled Lyle, sounding like he was having difficulty getting a good breath. He got to his feet and started dusting himself off. "I have to keep in practice," I said, smiling as sweetly as possible. I could easily imagine him rolling his eyes. "Isabel, what are you doing up so early?" "You know I very well can't sleep when we go hunting," said the human instructor. "Rainier has decided that we are ready to hunt down another dragon. They've been watching the cave where this one resides, and he's going to give us a brief reminder of how we do things when we get there. Elves with grudges are not something you want against you." "Yes," I said quietly. Every single inhabitant within this settlement hated the dragons. They had all lost at least one loved one to the ravaging beast. "I know." "Anyways," said Isabel quickly as she started heading for the dining hall, "I'll see you two at breakfast. Lyle, try not to let her win too much." "I suppose I'll let you take the first shot," I said, stringing my bow of bees. "I guess," muttered Lyle, sighing deeply as he notched an arrow and positioned himself behind the thick rope marking the boundary line. He pulled back on the string and let the arrow fly. I could track the arrow's flight through the air as it whistled to strike a dummy propped against the wooden makeshift wall. There was a thump as it hit the dummy just below where the heart should be. Without hesitation, I notched my arrow and let it fly. I smiled to myself when Lyle flinched as the arrow brushed his hair. It was then buried itself into the dead center of the heart on the dummy. "You shouldn't be allowed to do that," grumbled Lyle, notching another arrow with a sigh of frustration. "And yet she surpasses your ability by 100-fold," said the paternal voice of Rainier. I had seen the vibrant green sphere of his approach in my mind before I'd even taken my shot. His green reminded me of the newly blooming leaves when spring first arrived. At his passive voice, Lyle accidentally loosed his arrow. It completely missed the dummy. "Relying on your sight too much is what cripples you, youngling." The full-blooded elf was the leader of our settlement. He had founded it after losing his entire family to the dragon which ravaged his village. He had sworn an oath to never rest until all the dragons had been extinguished from our land. So far, he had personally been present to see 5 dragons die. He was the one who had killed the black dragon that had destroyed my village. "So you keep telling me," rumbled Lyle with a sour tone. "You really should listen to him," I said, drawing back and releasing another arrow that buried itself in the notch of the one I'd shot previously. Show off, he muttered, shifting his stance. You know Kayla is right, said the elf calmly. If you listen to what I was trying to teach you, you might actually learn to be better at single-hand combat and archery. I can beat her wielding a sword, grumbled Lyle, pulling back on his bow, releasing in irritation. The arrow flew wide and straight out the entrance to the valley of... The arrow flew wide and straight out the entrance to the valley the settlement was located in. Oi! came a voice yelled from the direction of which the wayward arrow had flown. In my mind's eye, a golden brownish sphere was hurtling in our direction. Watch me beard! Sorry, muttered Lyle, rolling his eyes. Hidwar, said the elf, as calm and poised as he always was. He was nowhere near to actually hitting you. Have ye any idea how long it took to grow back after that dragon scorched it? Yelled the short man, rousing the rest of the settlement as I felt them stir behind me. I will not have any of ye trying to defile it. Hidwar was a dwarf. In my mind's eye, dwarfs were various shades of brown. Generally, we all got along quite well with him, but he was like a peacock towards its tail feathers when it came to his beard. Also, he wasn't much of a morning person and had spent the last half of the night on guard duty. The short dwarf had a major limp in his right foot, which made the vibrations from his walk and gait distinct from anyone else's. Hidwar, like me, was the only survivor of his clan when the dragon had attacked. He had been able to inflict the death blow on the beast before Rainier had been in range to kill it, but not before it had half chewed off his right foot. He didn't hit you, I said calmly. We all know he missed. I guess you're right, Kayla, answered the dwarf darkly, but much calmer than before. I had noticed over the 3 years he had been with us that I was the only one he would actually listen to when in one of his rages. He seemed to have a soft spot for me. Then I take it you are not coming with us when we go hunt down the dragon? Asked Rainier in his polite, emotionless tone. I was rather hoping you would come. Not on your life, grumbled the grouchy dwarf. He started limping towards the settlement without waiting for them. I will spy out them dragon holes for ye, but I'll not engage one and risk having me beard removed again. No, I'm getting myself some sleep. You're gonna miss breakfast, I called after him. He said nothing but grunted while still heading in the direction of his own room. Let him go, said Rainier, when I started to go after him. You can bring him food after breakfast if he isn't too tired. We both can later, said Lyle, hurrying off to retrieve his wayward arrows. I'll let you tell him, Kayla, that I have decided it is time both of you join us on our hunt, said Rainier. Noting the look of shocked disbelief on my face, he continued, You are the best archer I have ever trained. I'm not as good as you, I muttered, wringing my hands together in embarrassment at the compliment. Rainier didn't give them out lightly. There have been numerous times where I miss. But you are the best of all the humans within this settlement, said the elf. And you are the one without your eyes. What about Lyle? I asked, still not knowing if I should believe my ears. He's a decent fighter and has excellent swordsmanship, answered Rainier, turning towards the direction of the main settlement. And he's the fastest shifter I've ever seen. Not that his other form inspires much confidence. I doubt he would have gotten very far if it hadn't been for you. I'll expect to see you two when I brief everyone after breakfast. The country of Darat is almost rid of the dragons for good. End chapter 2. Now, I suppose I'll just get back to, back to my writings if you don't mind. Cue music. From The Hobbit, of course. And time to start writing.